owned America to start with, or the part that was under English rule. The king, it was his own personal property. And he could license you to be able to get minerals and do this and do that as long as you paid your fair share. But the king literally owned the whole country, other than what France owned in Spain and those kind of things. He owned it. There's an interesting thing about France, though, that you're going to see in a minute. Revolutionary War. What was the real reason for the Revolutionary War? Very interesting. Not what you were taught in school. Real reason for the Revolutionary War. Here's a few quotes from William Manley German in a speech to the House of Commons, December 1913. The Rothschilds' bank caused a bill to be introduced in the English Parliament, which provided that no colony of England could issue its own money. Thus, they had to use English money. The colonies were compelled to discard their money and mortgage themselves to the Rothschilds' Bank of England to get money. Then, for the first time in the history of the United States, money began to be based on debt. Benjamin Franklin stated that in 1 year from that date, the streets of the colonies were filled with the unemployed. Franklin later claimed this was the real cause of the War of Independence. He said the colonies, we heard it was a tea act, right? Things like tea tax and stuff. The colonies would gladly have, this is according to Benjamin Franklin, the colonies would gladly have borne the little tax on tea and other matters had it not been that England and the Rothschilds Bank took away from the colonies their money, which created unemployment, dissatisfaction, and debt. And that is the real cause, folks, of the war. Next thing that I want to talk about real quick is something called the definitive treaty. We heard this nasty rumor that we won the Revolutionary War. Ain't true. We did not win it. The last battle that was fought, Cornwallis surrendered the battle, not the war. Proof? About 1 year ago, this document, which I just threw on the floor, came into the country. It was brought in by some folks that I know. It's called the Definitive Treaty of Peace between Great Britain and the United States, signed at Paris, 3 September 1783. It had never been in this country before that. This is what really, really, really happened. You think there was a war? Nah, read this. Listen to this. And again, I've got this stuff available for anybody that wants to look at it later. Here's an introduction. It having pleased the divine providence to dispose the hearts of the most serene and most potent prince. This is somebody that lost a battle is a most potent prince? I don't think so. George III, by the grace of God, listen to this. Here's his titles. King of Great Britain. France. Who did we borrow the money from that helped us win the war? We thought France. Now we owe that money to the King of England? Interesting. Ireland, defender of the faith, Duke of Brunswick and Lunenburg, archtreasurer and prince-elector of the Holy Roman Empire, treasurer of the Catholic Church, positions all over, etc. And it goes on and on and on and on and on. What happens is we start looking then at who are the parties to the treaty. We find out the parties to the treaty is this guy named John Adams, Esquire. Does anybody know where you go get an Esquire title? England. I don't think we gave them out. Benjamin Franklin, Esquire. John Jay, Esquire. These were all people who were titled nobility in England who were negotiating this treaty. And do you know what the treaty really said? The treaty really said it's agreed that everything that England and the people of England and the king and whoever else owned and any obligations that existed before this treaty are still law. The king still owns it. The king still owed all the money. Nothing changed except we could govern ourselves theoretically as long as we paid the rent. Where did that show up in the Constitution? This document actually required us to form a Constitution, so we did. And so, where did it show up in the Constitution? Here's a couple places. Section 10. States shall pass no law impairing the obligation of contracts. Oh, so we still owe the money, so the land's still the king's. That's right, the Constitution snuck that one by you. or grant any title of nobility, which means the king is still the one that puts all the esquires on all the names of the people